Here we are. Everybody, thank you for joining us on another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host, Rashid, and once again, I got my friend on the channel because I have a lot of questions to ask. How's it going, Larry?
Hey, maybe I have some answers. We'll make stuff up.
Larry, what in the last 2 weeks, what is going on in Syria? Because they want you to believe that it was an intelligence failure that the jihadis or the Al Nusra just out of the blue mounted a massive military campaign without any satellites, without any intelligence telling us that this was underway. What is your take on this?
Well, this just didn't start last week or the week before. Um, there've been, we're learning now that there were apparently a lot of problems with Assad. He was not paying attention to, or even willing to entertain advice from Russia or Iran, plus their offers of assistance. And they then, it turns out, the reports came out over the weekend that Syrian intelligence was passing on information to Israeli intelligence about the location of Iranian Revolutionary Guard commanders, and that the Israelis were using that information to target and kill them. So this had been some time in the making, and basically both Russia and Iran decided, we're not going to stick around. We're not going to shed one drop of blood for these guys. They're selling out their own country. We're not going to compel them to fight for it.
Mhm. Well, what does that have in the bigger scope of things? Russia and Iran loses strategic depth in the Middle East. It allows Israel a freer hand, and it also puts pressure on Russia because that was the bases that Russia occupies in Syria probably will be evacuated at some point in time, and that was Russia's only naval facility in the Mediterranean.
Well, let's put it in the proper context. Number one, the TARDIS base is sort of a refueling base. It's not a full blown naval base, like the United States has had in certain locations.
Hmm.
They're still at the air base. In fact, Turkey as well as HTS are asking them to stay. And the Russians are basically saying, nah, thanks for the invite. We're probably going to move on. So they're packing up their S-400 systems. They're making sure that there's not going to be anything left behind that could fall into the hands of the rebels.
Hmm.
But, compare that with what happened in August of 2021 in Afghanistan. Have you seen any Syrians clinging to Russian aircraft falling to their deaths? Have you seen thousands of Syrians running alongside the aircraft trying to get on board?
Hmm.
No. Have you had suicide bombers running into crowds of people clamoring at the airfield trying to get in? Let me in, take my baby. No. So, all of this Western rhetoric about, oh, this is a major blow for Russia. Look in the damn mirror, people. You're in no place, no room to talk whatsoever.
Hmm.
The United States has demonstrated repeatedly that we bail out when things get going bad. We've done it in Vietnam. We've done it in Afghanistan. So, this is just the United States trying to do what I call psychological projection.
Hmm.
That's number one. Russia takes a very clear-eyed view of the strategy. They recognize that both Turkey and the United States are intent. They were intent on overthrowing Assad. Assad made it possible for them, and in making it possible for them, they've lost control. This is now a problem for the United States, Turkey, Israel to solve. and there's no unitary solution. Everybody's got a different interest. Israel's looking to expand its buffer zone into the Golan Heights and maybe get control of what was some potential oil reserves. But the problem Israel's got, it doesn't have an unlimited supply of military personnel to extend out and to post in that area to, secure a new border. So when you're expanding territory, it means you got personnel to cover it. They don't have the personnel to cover it. And the Turks want to get rid of the Kurds that the United States has been backing. So the United States is going to have to make a choice. Are we going to keep our word and back the Kurds? No. If I could give any advice to the Kurds, don't trust the United States. Sell you out in a heartbeat. Because the alternative is the United States would have to fight the Turks. Well, they don't want to do that. They might get their ass kicked. The United States, not the Turks. But even here's Turkey. They've created this chaos, and it's like instead of all the Syrian refugees in Turkey going, oh great, they're going, hell no, we're not going back. And you got more Turks that are more Syrians that are inside Turkey. They're going, we're getting the hell out. We're going to Turkey, or they're going to Jordan, or they're going to Iraq, or they're going anywhere but Syria. So, the United States this is like when we helped break up Yugoslavia. And you come out with Serbia, Croatia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, and still simmering tensions. Well, that's going to be the case of Syria for the foreseeable future.
Well, Larry, there was a bombing in I think it was the Tartus and area and the where Russia's naval facilities are by Israel, and it was supposed to be over a 3.5 on the Richter scale. And I was reading on RT, they were alluding to maybe that was a mini nuke or something. What?
No, no, it wasn't. I think they probably hit a Syrian weapons storage depot, and that's what detonated. That'd be my guess.
Okay.
I don't think they weren't attacking Russia. If they'd attacked the Russian site, Russia would fight back and would counterattack.
Hmm.
But that's again, it's so just stupid. The Israelis are that they're climbing into bed with radical Islamic extremists, these Sunni extremists, who do not believe that Israel has a right to exist, and that will be ready to fight Israel at the drop of a hat over any attacks and desecrations of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Yet, Israel's gotten into bed with them, and this group with HTS, which is really getting money from the U.S. and Brits, they're pretending to be moderates, and I expect them to set up a new chapter of LGBTQ in Syria. I mean, it's just
Larry,
appalling.
it's crazy.
Yeah, man. It's appalling. I mean, this guy Jelani, he pretends like he's never cut off a human head. He has, and yet the United States got him dressed up in a suit. Said, look, do you ever, so you're close enough in age. You can remember they used to have the Westerns back in the 60s. And in some of these Westerns, what you'd see is they'd take these, like a Sioux or an Apache Indian, and they'd dress them up in white man's clothing. And, they stand around and, it looked about as natural as having a dog dressed up in a tuxedo. Okay, it just you're going, what the hell is that? That's what this guy looks like.
Well, uh,
Sorry.
Larry, Larry, when you said the LGBT, I think that joke went over everybody's head, but I caught it. Um, I want to Russia. This is what's on the news right now. this is an article on RT. It just came out, and it's also on Sputnik. And the title of it is "Bloodshed, Chaos, and U.S. Manipulation." Putin paints a grim global picture at defense meeting.
Hmm.
And on here, they ask Putin describes the climate of the United States, of the global situation, and this is what is being reported. I'm scrolling down a little bit. In the section
Yeah, yeah.
titled "U.S. Aspirations for World Dominance," it reads like this: Putin describes the global military political climate as both challenging and unstable, pointing to ongoing conflicts and heightened tensions in multiple regions. And they quote him: "Today, the military political situation in the world remains challenging and unstable," Putin stated during an expanded session of the Defense Ministry Board. He highlighted the persistent violence in the Middle East and the growing risk of conflict everywhere. The bloodshed in the Middle East does not cease, and there is significant conflict potential in several other parts of the world, Putin noted. He also accused the U.S. of waging covert warfare and enforcing a policy of containment against nations it calls its opponents, including Russia. The U.S. imposes its so called rules on the international community, constantly changing and manipulating them as it sees fit, the Russian leader said. For them, the only stable rule is that there are no rules. We see the U.S. administration and the collective West relentlessly trying to preserve their dominance, pushing their rules on the global community and manipulating them as they see fit. Excuse me. With that perspective
Hmm.
of America's policy, and I'm pretty sure that this is shared by a majority of the world, how can America continue to think that she's going to get away with these being in bed with cultivating, incubating, financing, and then controlling terrorists, and then flooding nations with them, or color revolutions, or assassinations, or overthrow? How can she, at a time when her industry is collapsing, her manufacturing base is all but gone, her and the debt crisis is untenable? How can the U.S. empire and the Western world continue on this path and think that they're going to maintain their so-called rules-based order?
Well, let's understand the rules-based order. It's the golden rule. Those with the gold get to make the rules. Okay, and the United States, it's in charge of making the rules. So if it's good for us, it's a good rule, and if it's bad for us, it's a bad rule, and so there's no consistency, and there's clearly no objective standard. So Putin is correctly noting that the problem is the United States has become the very authoritarian regime, imperialist regime that it claimed that it was fighting to prevent from controlling the world. We are that evil. Uh, did you ever see that movie with Mickey Rourke called Angel Heart?
Yes.
Okay, so he's hired supposedly a police detective, and the entire movie is about him looking for the murderer. Who's
Hmm.
this killer? Who's killing all these people? It's only at the end he discovers he's the killer. Okay, in a way,
Hmm.
that movie was about the United States,
Hmm.
where we come out because it's set basically starting in World War II. That out of World War II comes this hero or this war hero, and then in the ensuing years becomes something else, and that's what the United States. My favorite imagery right now is it's the United States is a serial rapist who's getting on dating apps. You got to get them off the dating apps, man, because we're busy trying to help overthrow the legitimately elected government of Georgia. Why? Because we don't like them. Because they want to be friends with Russia. You can't be friends with Russia. You can only be friends with us. Uh, Put pressure on Romania to overthrow its own election.
Hmm.
That wasn't democratic because the people we wanted to win didn't win, so it's not democratic by definition. Oh, please. You've got efforts underway in Armenia. to try to destabilize that country, to break it away from Russia. And then the U.S. continued support with intelligence and weapons and ammunition to the government of Ukraine. So yeah, the United States is out of control, and the Americans, we were so arrogant. We don't see. We think of ourselves as so morally superior. I was watching on YouTube. We gotta bring this up. There's this channel called Sabbatical. It's this guy goes around filming himself, visiting other countries. And so he does Russia. And, initially he's got sort of this negative view of Russia that, it's bad. I was warned not to come here. But he goes to St. Petersburg, great time, no problems. Goes to Moscow, great time, no problems. Goes around, visits 4 or 5 other countries. Now remember, this is an American, and he's doing it this year, in 2024. A buddy camera, and, every place he goes, he's treated well, no police, no harassment, he's a tourist. People laugh, they come talk to him, eats fine. Then he goes to this province that's down right on the border of China. And this is what I find out. The guy hires a taxi to take him out to the border, but forgets his passport. And then while he's out there, he ends up getting arrested. And then the FSB get involved. Oh, man, this guy's posted a video about, Russia's a bunch of authoritarian thugs. They put him in jail for 15 days. They let him out. And I wrote on his YouTube channel. I said, let's turn the tables around. Tell me what would happen if a Russian citizen came to this country now, probably couldn't, but came to this country now to talk about, let me tell you about, let's see what America's like, and goes across, America, but then gets down to the border and starts filming what's taking place at the border. Do you think U.S. law enforcement would have any issues with that? Do you think they might arrest his ass? Yes. So it's like, you get and that's America's problem. We only see it. We're so special, we can't see or think about anybody else's needs, anybody else's interests, because it's all about us, man. Mm-hmm. All about us. So to that extent, the United States is going around the world just creating mayhem, war, terror, suffering, not promoting democracy, not promoting human rights, promoting fear and death and destruction. All the death that the Israelis are causing is enabled by the United States. The U.S. could have stopped that in a heartbeat, but didn't. Instead, we encouraged it to keep going.
So right now, as you talk, to follow up, would you label America's policy and those in charge as bloodshedders? If they're promoting war, if they are overthrowing democracies, are they not bloodshedders?
Yeah, man, we're the God of the Old Testament, or the gods of the Old Testament. We've got to have a bunch of blood sacrifice. I've always made jokes, about the story of Cain and Abel, as it's traditionally told, is that, Cain was the bad guy because he killed his brother. Yeah, I should have killed his brother. But when you read that story, it said, here's Abel, who is, he grows sheep and cattle and kills them and brings them to God. God's pleased with that. Cain, on the other hand, is a farmer. He grows wheat and corn and barley and vegetables, and he brings it to God, and God hates broccoli, and God hates farmers. It is just, but That's the God of the Old Testament, man. The blood, that blood sacrifice. Hey, go, grab your son, take him out, strap him to the altar. We're going to cut his heart out. Oh no, never mind. We found a sheep. We're going to take a baby sheep and kill the baby. You know, yeah, you're not going to see a Disney movie made on that. You know, kids already freaked out when Bambi's mother got burned up in the forest fire. So, you know, the United States really, it's a culture of death. It's really what we are. Hey, you know, we're happy to have what is it, 100,000 black babies aborted every year?
Yeah, that's what.
Man,
Yeah.
it keeps that black population down, man. That's why, you know, and all these white liberal women are all, oh, we're anti-racist. Yeah, yeah, death, kill the babies. But it'd be one thing if they're killing predominantly white babies, but no. It's got to be, you know, the black and the Latino babies, man. Those are the ones that are often, and they pretend that they're not a bunch of racist thugs, and that's what we want to promote overseas too. Hey, yeah, make sure you don't have any more of these children. You need to kill them before they're born. So yeah, that's because that becomes what we're known for. But you know, they're approaching 50,000 dead in Gaza now.
Oh my God!
In a year, and let's put that in perspective. In 20 years of fighting in Vietnam, where the most intense was from 68 to 72, the United States lost a total of 58,000. God, we build a wall to memorialize that. You know, people go and weep over it, and they'll, you know, get an impression of a name, an honor. You know, it's a big thing. 58,000, oh man. Israel's killed almost that many Palestinians in 1 year. Okay? Put it in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It's outrageous.
How can this continue to go on? Larry, I'm asking you this is because America, it seems like the people in power, not just in America, because I say that the British policies mirror the U.S. policies and right back at them. They mirror each other. How can the Western rules-based order continue to try to maintain their order, carrying out chaotic policies that are actually killing their order?
Yeah.
To undermine its largest lender and investor, China, to try to surround its largest manufacturing trade partner, China, to disrupt Russia's rise, to break off Africa's rise to independence, to suppress Latin America's push for self-determination, to divide and conquer in West Asia, which is the Middle East, they call it. How can this go on in perpetuity when they are saddled by unbridled debt? There is a clash of cultures all across the Western world. The governments are not taking heed to the will of the people and lashing out and becoming more draconian as the days pass, and the people are becoming more dissatisfied in every area of the Western world. How do they believe that they can maintain this type of world order?
So far, they've never paid a price. So I know you're too smart a man to have done this. But did you ever give one of your kids a credit card and tell them that they could spend whatever they wanted to spend and didn't ever have to worry about paying it off?
No.
Yeah. Yeah. You didn't do that because, you know, your mama didn't raise no fool, okay? You know. So that's what we've got. We got a government that gets to use a credit card, never has to pay the damn bill. Well, we get other people to pay it. We get other countries that the United States prints all this money. These other countries buy our treasury bills. That's how we do it. I guarantee you, if Russia or Iran I'm not saying I hope this happens, but it's going to take something like this to wake us up that we engage in another military confrontation, and they turn around and just beat the snot out of us. I mean, a legitimate, let's say that we decide to try to help Israel attack Iran, and Iran turns around and sinks one or two of our aircraft carriers and a bunch of destroyers, and destroys our military base at Al Udeid in Qatar. All of a sudden, we'd be like, "What the hell?" Because all of a sudden now we've taken some damage that we've rarely suffered in the past. Part of the reason we're so keen on going to war and promoting wars overseas, we haven't had to fight a war here in the continental United States since the War of 1812. We invaded Mexico in 1848. So, you start looking at it, war doesn't cost us anything, man. It makes us money. The war's wonderful from that standpoint. Once we start having to learn that there's a cost in terms of human lives and in terms of actual sacrifice at home, only then will the American people say, we're not doing this. We are not going to get engaged in another war overseas.
Larry, that's my point exactly. When I talk to people and I tell them that Russia should act a little bit more forceful, because the only thing that the West knows is the language of bullying and war. And to avoid a greater escalation, somebody has to smack the bully in the mouth.
Yeah.
So get the bully
Yeah.
attention to stop doing what the bully's doing. Why
Right.
aren't any people talking in this manner? They'll always say, well, after Russia gets hit, or after Iran gets hit, or after a nation gets hit, they'll say Russia or Iran is smart enough to do X, Y, and Z without escalation. That is, if you return fire, that is not escalation. And even look, what is it? An even swap is not a swindle. If you hit me and I hit you back, that's not an escalation.
Yeah. Well, the things are going to escalate. We'll see if Donald Trump is good at de-escalating them. That there is currently talk with both the Biden administration and Netanyahu's government about launching a preemptive strike on Iran. And all of that is predicated on an assumption that Iran doesn't have any effective air defense. I believe that that's a false assumption. I believe that Iran does have still a capable air defense. In fact, maybe a superior air defense, depending on how much support's been provided by Russia. And that if they fend off a joint Israeli-American-U.S. airstrike against them, then they'll turn around and take out that military base at Al Udeid in Qatar, as well as destroy significant infrastructure bases in Israel. Then we're off to the races as far as, is this going to escalate further? And could this really turn into a global war? Because Russia will have Iran's back on this. Of that, I have no doubt.
And talking about Russia again, I often say that things would not have escalated to this point where it's on the verge of thermonuclear disaster had Russia smacked the West in the mouth. But now, absent of that direct smack in the mouth, forget striking in Ukraine doing X, Y, Z, but absent that smack in the mouth, you see at every turn the West now no longer fears escalation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, the calculations in the West that I think are, again, you always start with assumptions, and so you need to ask people. Let's identify, what are you assuming, or what do you know? Do you know anything for sure, or are you just making some assumptions? With respect to Russia, it is assumed that Russia is weak. It is assumed that Russia is going to run out of missiles anytime soon. Now, they've been saying that for 3 years. almost. Hasn't happened yet. So, when you keep making that prediction over 3 years, you may want to step back and say, hey, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. So this assumption that Russia's weak and incapable of striking back then leads us to take actions that will be so provocative that, in fact, they'll turn around and strike back.
Yeah. Before I know the time is limited, I have one more thing. Larry, I want to play a little short clip for you, and I want your opinion on this clip. It's about a 2-minute clip, and it's about the last minute rush by lunatic Biden to approve more aid to the Ukrainian conflict or whatever. And I want
okay, that's good. I was afraid you're going to show me a clip of Charles Barkley taking his clothes off. Oh my God!
Listen to you. Here we go. Let me play this clip right here, Larry.
The U.S. seems to be fretting over a dilemma it cooked up itself, pulling nations off with tough sanctions and pressures, then getting miffed when they start making new friends and alliances. Enter Joe Biden's memo born out of his concern that China, Iran, North Korea, and Russia are forming an unlikely alliance. Of course, the memo was crafted by Biden's team a few months ago, shrouded in secrecy due to, quote, sensitive findings. But the aim is to thwart this newfound camaraderie among the quartet. U.S. officials have been trying to wall off Russia since the Ukraine conflict began in 2022. But Russia has looked to Iran for military support, allegedly receiving drones and missiles from the Islamic Republic. And regarding North Korea, they've reportedly thrown artillery, missiles, and even troops into the mix to help Russia fend off Ukrainian forces in the Kursk region, and that's based on claims by U.S. officials. Now, on the Chinese front, the U.S. claims Beijing is lending a hand to Moscow with crucial components to prop up its military-industrial base. The U.S. says Russia has, of course, reciprocated by sending fighter jets Iran's way, aiding Tehran's quests in missile defense and space technology. Meanwhile, North Korea is said to be savoring fuel and funding from Russia to boost its manufacturing and military prowess. And about China, they're receiving Russian expertise, with both nations teaming up to ramp up military tech cooperation. So this seems to be drawing America's ire. Just last week, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan voiced his jitters over this burgeoning convergence among these four nations.
How do you answer critics who say this alliance of bad guys has actually gotten tighter and, in a way, more solidified under this administration?
Well, look, I think there is no doubt that there is increasing alignment among these four actors. Why has this happened? It has not happened because these countries are so strong. It has happened out of necessity because these countries are under pressure. Russia, under pressure in Ukraine, had to turn to Iran for munitions and North Korea for personnel. Iran, under pressure, tried to turn to Russia to get help because its attacks against Israel were defeated and its own air defenses were badly degraded.
We understand that the document includes 4 recommendations that aim to tackle the growing threats through enhanced collaboration. There's a need for faster information sharing, ramp up sanctions against the 4 nations, and crisis management preparedness on the part of the United States. Yet, taking a closer look at these so-called solutions, it seems like the U.S. is sticking to its old playbook of sanctions and pressure, which has in the first place prompted many countries to turn their back on the U.S. to escape its unilateral approach and come together in stronger alliances like BRICS. So what Joe Biden is doing in his last days at the White House seems to be part of his perceived strategy to stir the pot on every front on the world stage, sending billions of dollars of money into Zelensky's pocket, giving a green light to use long-range missiles by Ukraine against Russia. And the list, of course, goes on. All these steps are in line with his last-minute controversial moves that do nothing but to shake things up for his successor and, of course, critic Donald Trump.
So let's assume for a minute what he said was right, even though we know that was a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
How is it that when America sends mercenaries and trainers and weapons to Iran, to Ukraine, that's a sign of strength, but a hypothetical Iranian aid to Russia or North Korean aid to Russia or Chinese aid to Russia is a sign of desperation and weakness? I mean, it seems like they are in bizarro world where up is down, down is up, in is out, and out is in.
Now there was a reason Lewis Carroll wrote Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, okay? Because he was dealing with a government at the time, even though this was back in the middle of the 19th century, that was equally delusional, equally out of touch with reality. So, you know, when Sullivan says, oh, yeah, that Russia's doing this because it needs North Korean soldiers in Kursk, that's a complete CIA fabrication. That's a lie. There are no North Korean troops fighting on the ground in Kursk on behalf of the Russians. It's just a complete lie. You're making it up. So the failure to grapple with the reality that Russia is no longer somebody's prison bitch, okay? That Russia's on its own 2 feet, and you know, you're not gonna intimidate them. You know, you show up in the prison cell and, you know, demand a sexual favor, and Russia's climbing out of the bunk saying, no, you know, I'll rearrange your teeth for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's that crude, but that's what's going on. The United States thinks that it can bully Russia, and the danger is they're going to keep doing it until the point that Russia's patience will be exhausted and it'll punch back, and all of a sudden we'll go, what the hell? Where'd that come from? Without taking responsibility for our own actions, having created those circumstances.
And that's how it's always, because in closing, remember Sullivan said that in that piece there, he was talking about Israel's response to Iran's attack, making it seem as though Iran was the aggressor.
Yeah. Israel just minding its own business, you know, sitting there making bagels, you know, making up some gefilte fish. and here come the nasty Iranians that just want to steal their bagels and attack them for no good reason. Just like those crazy Hamas people. I mean, didn't they realize what a good thing they had living in this outdoor prison where they couldn't leave and enter and leave at will, where they couldn't have an airport, where they couldn't have a seaport? Didn't they realize how damn good they had it? Bunch of ingrates that they dare to break out of prison and kill some of their prison guards. God, how could they do that? Yeah, that's the problem.
Oh man, I tell you what. Thank you, Larry, for another excellent show, man. I really, really appreciate you coming on. I know you're busy because you're in demand like it's no tomorrow, Larry.
Well, I always make time for you, my friend.
All right, thank you so much, Larry. I'll talk to you later.
All right, Rashid. Later.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Everybody, listen. For those of you who are listening to the Red Pill Diaries, I want you to check us out in a few minutes over. Well, we'll still be streaming, but not on this show. We'll be streaming channel member and Patreon question and answers on geopolitics in a few minutes. So join us in just a minute on that stream. I want to thank each and every one of you for giving me your time. Hit the like button. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and also spread the word. Let us beat the algorithm, okay? On that note, remember to do right by others, not because there's some material gain in it for you or because you're looking for some kind of praise. Do right by others because it's the right thing to do. Treat others as you would have them treat you. All right? Know that I love each and every one of you who loves truth, who loves truth. But know that the love that I have for you will always pale in comparison to the love that Almighty God has for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true. But above all things, remember, stay righteous. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Deuces, everybody. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. We're out of here. Peace.